They had watched Earth for 50 years before they decided to make contact. They studied human cities from orbit. They listened to human radio signals. They learned human languages. They thought they understood everything about this strange blue planet and its people. They were wrong. Ambassador Vel was the leader of the first diplomatic mission. He was tall with a shiny black exoskeleton and 4 arms that clicked together when he was nervous. His species looked like giant insects to human eyes, but they were proud and ancient. They had traveled between stars for thousands of years. They chose to land in Korea because it seemed like a peaceful place, not too big, not too small. The humans there seemed calm and organized. Ambassador Vel liked calm and organized. The shuttle came down on a spring morning outside Seoul. The air smelled like flowers and car exhaust. Vel stepped onto the landing pad with 3 guards behind him. Each guard carried a plasma rifle. Each guard was trained to kill. The humans were already waiting. There were soldiers in neat uniforms, government officials in dark suits, and one man who stood slightly ahead of the others. He wore a military uniform but seemed relaxed. His name tag said Park, and he had the rank of captain. Vel noticed the animal immediately. It stood next to Captain Park on 4 legs. It had thick fur the color of dark earth and gold. Its mouth was open, showing white teeth. A pink tongue hung out from between those teeth. Its tail moved back and forth like a snake preparing to strike. Vel's guards raised their weapons. Apex predator detected, one guard said through the translator device. Class 7 threat, we must kill it now. Captain Park did not move. He did not look scared. He simply put one hand on the animal's head and scratched behind its ears. Put your weapons down, Park said. His voice was calm. He is friendly. Vel did not understand. His translator was working perfectly, but the words made no sense. Friendly? This creature was a canine. Vel had read about canines in the Galactic database. They were pursuit predators. They hunted in packs. They could run for hours without stopping. They could track prey across huge distances using only smell. On 17 different planets, canine species had wiped out entire civilizations. And this human was scratching one behind the ears. Captain Park, Vel said carefully, do you understand what that creature is? Park smiled. It was a strange smile, warm and a little bit proud. He is a German shepherd. He is 4 years old. He likes to chase tennis balls and sleep on my bed. He paused. He is also my partner. We work together. The dog called looked at Vel. Its eyes were brown and bright. Its tail was still wagging. It did not look like a killer. It looked like it wanted to play. But Vel knew better. He had seen pictures of what canines could do. He had read reports of colonies torn apart by wild dog packs. These animals were not pets. They were monsters. How? Vel asked. His voice cracked slightly. How did your people survive them? Park looked confused for a moment. Then understanding came to his face. He knelt down next to and wrapped one arm around the dog's chest. Leaned into him, tongue still hanging out, tail still wagging. We did not just survive them, Ambassador, Park said. We made friends with them. A very long time ago, before humans had cities or farms, we found wolves. Wolves are the ancestors of dogs. They were dangerous. They could kill us easily, but some of our ancestors had a crazy idea. He stood up again, but his hand stayed on his head. They shared their food with the wolves. They let the wolves sleep near their fires. They treated the wolves with kindness. And slowly, over many generations, the wolves changed. They became dogs. They became our partners, our protectors, our family. Vel stared. His guards still had their weapons raised, but they looked uncertain now. You tamed apex predators, Vel said slowly. You took one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy and turned them into companions. We did not tame them, Park said. We befriended them. There is a difference. Barked once. It was a loud sound that made all the jump. But then the dog turned in a circle and sat down, looking at Park with what could only be described as love. "He wants a treat," Park said. He pulled something from his pocket and tossed it too. The dog caught it in the air and chewed happily. Vel watched this happen and felt something he had never felt before. He was not sure if it was fear or amazement or both. Humans had done something that no other species in the known galaxy had ever done. They had looked at a predator and seen not an enemy but a friend. "Ambassador," one of his guards whispered, "this species is more dangerous than we thought." Vel agreed, but not for the reason his guard meant. The humans were not dangerous because they had weapons or technology or armies. They were dangerous because they had something else entirely. They had the ability to make monsters love them. The diplomatic meeting continued. Papers were signed, speeches were made, but Vel could not stop watching. The dog lay at Park's feet throughout the whole ceremony, peaceful and patient. Sometimes it would look up at its human. Sometimes Park would look down at it. There was something between them that Vel could not name. Later, when Vel returned to his ship, he wrote a report for the Galactic Council. He wrote about human cities and human technology and human politics. But at the end, he added a warning. "These humans are not like us," he wrote. "They do not see the universe the way we do. Where we see threats, they see opportunities. Where we see predators, they see friends. I do not know if this makes them foolish or brave, but I do know one thing for certain." He paused and looked out his window at the blue planet below. "We should be very careful with this species. They have a power we do not understand, the power to turn enemies into family." And somewhere on Earth, a dog named was chasing a tennis ball, happy and free, unaware that he had just changed the course of galactic history. 6 months had passed since they made contact with Earth. Things were going well. Humans had established small groups on several space stations. They were learning about the galaxy. The galaxy was learning about them. Outpost 17 was a trading station at the edge of space. It was old and crowded and always busy. 3 different species lived there together. They ran the station. They traded rare minerals from their ocean worlds. And now, humans had come to set up a small research lab. Doctor was one of the first human scientists on the station. She was 32 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. She studied alien biology. She wanted to understand how different species evolved on different worlds. It was her dream job. But had a secret. She had a medical condition that caused seizures. Sometimes, without warning, her brain would stop working properly. She would fall down. She would shake. She could not control it. The seizures were not dangerous if someone was there to help her, but if she was alone, she could get hurt. That is why she was a golden retriever. He was 5 years old with soft fur the color of honey. He was trained to detect seizures before they happened. He could smell the changes in its body. He could warn her in time, and if a seizure did happen, he would stay with her, protect her head, and bark until help came. The aliens on Outpost 17 did not understand at first. They were scared of him. They remembered the warnings about Earth canines. They avoided him in the hallways. Some of them requested that he be kept in a cage. Refused, went everywhere with her. He sat in her lab while she worked. He walked beside her in the corridors. He slept in her quarters at night. She could not live without him. They were different from they were curious creatures. They had evolved in deep oceans, so they looked like a mix between fish and humans. They were small and delicate, with skin that could change colors based on their emotions. They were not scared of. They were fascinated by him. One family lived on the station. They had a child named, was very young, barely more than a baby. He was about the size of a human cat, with big silver eyes and fins that fluttered when he was excited. He loved to explore. The accident happened on a quiet afternoon. Had wandered away from his parents. This happened often. He was a curious child who liked to look at everything. He found a door that was slightly open. He went through it. The door led to Cargo Bay 7. This area was restricted. It stored dangerous materials, but did not know this. He just wanted to see what was inside. The cargo bay's airlock was broken. A small crack had formed in the seal. Air was slowly leaking out. The temperature was dropping. For most species, this would just be uncomfortable, but needed warmth to survive. Their bodies could not handle cold. Tried to leave, but the door had closed behind him. He was trapped. He started to cry, but no sound came out. The air was too thin. Nobody noticed. The station was busy with other problems. His parents thought he was sleeping in his room. The workers did not check the cargo bay sensors. Nobody knew a child was dying. Nobody except the golden retriever was walking through a corridor near the cargo bay. Suddenly, he stopped. His ears went up. His nose twitched. He could smell something wrong. Fear, panic, a living creature in danger. Started barking. He pulled at his leash. He would not move forward. Tried to calm him. What is it? What is wrong? But would not calm down. He pulled harder. The leash broke free from his hand, and then he ran. Chased after him, but she could not keep up. Was fast when he wanted to be. He ran through corridors, past confused workers, around corners. He knew exactly where he was going. He found the cargo bay door and started scratching at it. He barked and barked. A guard came to see what was happening. When the guard opened the door, rushed inside. The cargo bay was freezing. Ice had formed on the walls. The air was thin and getting thinner, and in the corner lay curled up in a ball, barely breathing. Ran to the child. He lay down on top of, covering the small body with his warm fur. He wrapped himself around the child like a blanket. His body heat was the only thing keeping alive. When finally arrived, she found them like that. Would not move. He stayed on top of, protecting him, keeping him warm, even as ice crystals formed on his golden fur, even as his own body started to shake from the cold. The rescue team came quickly. They fixed the airlock. They brought medical equipment. They saved his life. But through all of it did not leave the child's side, not until he was sure was safe. His parents came running. When they saw lying next to their son, they were confused. Why would a predator protect their child? Why would it risk its own life for a creature of a different species? Knelt down next to. He was exhausted and cold, but his tail still wagged weakly when he saw her. She wrapped her arms around him and whispered into his fur. "Good boy, such a good boy." The father watched this. His skin changed colors, showing emotions that his translator could not express. Finally, he spoke. "Why?" he asked. "Why did your beast save my child?" Looked up at him. She was crying now, tears running down her cheeks. "He is not a beast," she said. "He is a dog, and dogs protect. That is what they do. They protect the ones they love, and they love everyone." The story spread across the station that night. By morning, it had reached other stations. By the end of the week, 17 worlds had heard about the golden dog who saved a child. The stopped being scared of. The started asking if they could pet him. And something changed in the way the galaxy saw humans and their strange animal companions. They were not monsters after all. They were protectors. They were family. And tired but happy, just wanted a treat and a warm place to sleep. He did not know he was famous. He did not care. He had done his job. He had protected someone who needed help. That was enough for him. That was always enough for a good boy. The hegemony did not care about diplomacy. They did not care about trade agreements or peace treaties or friendship between species. They only cared about power. They took what they wanted, and they destroyed anyone who tried to stop them. For 500 years they had conquered world after world. They were tall creatures, nearly 3 meters high, with gray skin like stone and 4 red eyes that never blinked. Their soldiers were trained from birth to fight. Their generals had never lost a war. When they heard about the human colony on Nu, they saw an easy target. Nu was a small world with green forests and clean rivers. 5,000 humans lived there, mostly farmers and engineers. They had no military base. They had no warships. They were peaceful people who just wanted to build a new home among the stars. They sent 10,000 soldiers to take the planet. Sargent was 53 years old when the ships appeared in the sky. She had served in the Earth military for 20 years before retiring to Nu. She had fought in 2 wars and carried scars on her body from battles she did not like to remember. She had moved to this quiet world to find peace. Peace was over now. Lived in a small house on the edge of a forest. She lived alone except for her dog, was a Belgian, 8 years old, with dark fur and intelligent eyes. He had been her partner during her military years. He had saved her life 3 times. She trusted him more than she trusted most humans. When the landed was working in her garden. She heard the explosions first, then saw the smoke rising from the main town, started barking immediately. His ears were flat against his head. He knew danger when he smelled it. Went inside her house. She opened a box she had not touched in 6 years. Inside was her rifle, her combat vest, and her old military boots. She put them on without thinking. Her hands remembered the movements even though her mind had tried to forget. They expected the humans to surrender quickly. They were wrong. The colonists of Nu were not soldiers, but they were not helpless either. Many of them had military training from Earth. Others had hunting experience. They knew the forests and mountains. They knew how to hide. They knew how to fight. And they had dogs. Not just, there were hundreds of dogs on Nu, pets, working animals, strays that wandered the edges of town. When the humans retreated into the wilderness, the dogs went with them. And slowly, the humans realized something amazing. The dogs could sense them before any technology could detect them. Soldiers had a specific smell. Their gray skin produced chemicals that human noses could not detect, but dog noses were different. Dogs could smell a patrol from 2 kilometers away. They could track enemy movements through the forest. They could warn their humans long before danger arrived. Became the most important scout in the human resistance, and her dog moved like ghosts through the trees. They found enemy camps. They counted enemy soldiers. They brought information back to the human leaders. Without Snows, the resistance would have been blind. They started to notice something was wrong. Their patrols kept walking into ambushes. Their camps kept getting attacked at night. Their soldiers kept disappearing in the forest. They could not understand how the humans always knew where they were. Then they started hearing the barking. It would come at night, echoing through the trees, first from one direction, then from another. They could not tell how many dogs were out there. They could not tell where the sounds were coming from. All they knew was that the barking always came before an attack. The soldiers started calling the dogs shadow hunters. They learned to fear that sound more than any weapon. One night, a patrol of 50 soldiers walked into a narrow valley, had tracked them for 3 hours, and 30 other fighters were waiting on the hills above. When barked once, the ambush began. The battle lasted 15 minutes. They never had a chance. Afterward, sat against a tree, catching her breath, lay next to her, panting heavily. He was not young anymore. These missions were hard on his old bones, but he still did his job. He still protected his human. Scratched behind his ears. "Good boy," she whispered, "such a good boy." The war lasted 3 months. They had more soldiers, better weapons, and advanced technology. But they did not have dogs. They did not have creatures who could track them by smell, who could hear them coming from far away, who would fight to the death to protect their humans. In the end, they retreated. Their commander sent one final message before leaving the planet. Human intelligence officers intercepted it and translated the words. "We cannot win here," the commander said. "The humans do not fight alone. They have bonded with demons. These animals know where we are before we know ourselves. They have no fear. They have no mercy. We must leave or we will all die." When the reinforcements from Earth finally arrived, They found the colonists gathered in the ruins of their town. They were tired and wounded and hungry, but they were alive. General stepped off the landing shuttle and looked at the survivors. He saw sitting on the steps of what used to be the town hall. His head was in her lap. Both of them had bandages on their bodies. Both of them looked exhausted. The general walked over to them. He did not speak for a long moment. Then he knelt down and looked at. "I heard about what the dogs did here," he said quietly. "The whole galaxy is talking about it." Nodded slowly. "They protected us like they always have." The general reached out and scratched chin. The old dog's tail wagged weakly. "Good dogs," the general said. "All of them good dogs." Smiled for the first time in 3 months. It was a tired smile, full of pain and loss, but also full of pride. The war on Nu changed everything. The galaxy learned that dogs were not just pets. They were not just cute animals that lived with humans. They were partners. They were soldiers. They were family. And anyone who threatened that family would face the consequences. Lived for 2 more years after the war. He spent them sleeping in the sun, eating treats and being loved. When he finally passed away, the whole colony came to his funeral. Humans and their dogs stood together to say goodbye to a hero. On his grave they carved simple words. He was a good boy. He protected his people. That was all that needed to be said. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room in the known universe. It was built on a station that floated between 3 suns, far from any planet. Representatives from 47 species gathered there to make decisions that affected trillions of lives. Today, they were talking about dogs. Ambassador Nam stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by seats that rose up like a mountain on all sides. Each seat held a representative from a different species. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and round. Some did not have bodies at all, just glowing lights that floated in special containers. They all watched her with different kinds of eyes. Was 60 years old with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She had been a diplomat for 30 years. She had negotiated trade deals and peace treaties and border agreements. But this was the most important speech of her life. Next to her sat her beagle. He was old and fat and lazy. His job was to provide emotional support when felt stressed. Right now he was sleeping. His soft snoring echoed through the silent chamber. The representative spoke first. His name was Counselor Trem, and he had been scared of dogs since the first contact 6 years ago. "We must discuss the Earth canines," Trem said. "They are dangerous. The war on Nu proved this. These animals helped humans kill thousands of soldiers. They are weapons. They should be controlled." The representative stood up next. He was massive, with gray stone skin and 4 red eyes that burned with anger. "Controlled," he roared. "They should be destroyed, every single one. The humans have turned predators into soldiers. This is against the natural order. This is madness." Listened calmly. She had expected this. They were angry about losing their war. They were scared of things they did not understand. Many other species agreed with them. The vote today could decide whether dogs would be banned from space forever. She could not let that happen. "May I speak?" asked. The council president, a floating ball of blue light, gave her permission to continue. Took a deep breath. Beside her, woke up slightly, yawned, and went back to sleep. A few delegates in the audience made uncomfortable sounds. "You fear our dogs," began. "I understand. I truly do. You look at them and see predators. You see teeth and claws and hunting instincts. You see creatures that have destroyed other species on other worlds." She paused and looked around the chamber. "But you are missing something important. You are seeing what dogs were. You are not seeing what they became." She knelt down next to and gently rubbed his belly. His tail wagged in his sleep. His tongue hung out of his mouth. He looked ridiculous and adorable at the same time. 10,000 years ago, our ancestors were afraid too. They lived in caves. They hunted with stone tools. They were weak and small compared to the wolves that hunted in the darkness. The wolves could have killed them easily. She stood up again. But our ancestors did something strange. Instead of running from the wolves, they offered them food. Instead of fighting them, they shared their fires. They chose trust over fear. They chose hope over hate. The chamber was completely silent now, even had stopped snoring. Over thousands of years, the wolves changed. They became smaller. They became gentler. They became dogs. But here is the important part. We changed too. We became kinder. We became more patient. We learned that the most dangerous creatures could become the most loyal friends. Pointed at. This animal would die for me, not because I trained him to, not because I forced him to. He would die for me because he loves me, and I would die for him because I love him. That is what you do not understand. Our bond with dogs is not about control. It is about love. The representative made a sound of disgust. Love. You speak of love while your beasts tear our soldiers apart. Turned to face him directly. Her eyes were hard. Your soldiers invaded a peaceful colony. They came to kill innocent people. Our dogs protected those people. That is what dogs do. They protect the ones they love. They protected us from your army, just as they have protected us from dangers for 10,000 years. She softened her voice. But I promise you this, if you come in peace, our dogs will greet you with wagging tails. They do not hate. They do not hold grudges. They judge beings by their actions, not their species. Treat us kindly and they will be your friends. Treat us cruelly and yes, they will defend us. She looked around the chamber one more time. You ask why we trust them. The answer is simple: because they trust us. They give us everything, their loyalty, their love, their lives, and in return we give them ours. This is not weakness. This is the greatest strength in the universe. The strength to see something frightening and choose compassion instead of violence. Walked back to the center of the chamber. You may vote to ban our dogs. You may call them weapons or beasts or monsters, but you will be wrong. They are none of those things. They are family. They are friends. They are the best part of humanity. She smiled softly. They are good boys, every single one, and I will not apologize for loving them. The vote was held 1 hour later. The voted to restrict dogs. The voted to destroy them. But the voted to protect them. And slowly, one by one, other species voted the same way. When the final count came in, closed her eyes and let out a breath she had been holding for hours. Dogs were allowed to remain in space. They could travel with humans wherever humans went. They were officially recognized as companion species, not weapons. Woke up when picked him up in her arms. He licked her face happily, having no idea what had just happened. He did not know that his ambassador had just saved his kind. He did not care about politics or galactic law. He was just happy to see his human smiling. That night returned to her quarters on the station. She sat in her favorite chair within her lap. She was exhausted, but she felt peaceful. "We did it, boy," she whispered. "We showed them who you really are." Wagged his tail and closed his eyes. Outside the window, the 3 suns of the council station glowed in the darkness. Ships came and went, carrying beings from 100 different worlds. And somewhere among those ships, humans traveled with their dogs, spreading love across the galaxy. The universe was a little bit kinder now, a little bit softer, a little bit more like home. All because of some very good boys. 50 years had passed since the day a German shepherd named made the freeze in fear. 50 years since a golden retriever named saved a child. 50 years since dogs helped win a war, and an ambassador named changed galactic law. The universe was different now. On 100 worlds, humans and aliens lived together, and where humans went, dogs followed. This was no longer strange. This was no longer frightening. This was simply how things were. They had fallen in love with dogs first. They bred special aquatic retrievers that could swim in their underwater cities. These dogs had webbed feet and waterproof fur. They played with children in the warm ocean currents. They were gentle and patient and kind, just like their ancestors on Earth. It took longer to accept dogs. They were a cautious species. But eventually, their elderly began adopting small companion dogs, tiny creatures with soft fur that kept old warm during their final years. The insects who had once raised weapons at now held chihuahuas in their forearms. Even the changed, though they would never admit it. They imported terriers to control vermin on their farming worlds. They called these dogs workers, not pets. They pretended they did not care about them. But sometimes, late at night, farmers would be seen scratching behind terrier ears and whispering words that sounded almost like affection. Doctor was 87 years old now. She had retired to a small moon that orbited a water world. Her house sat on a cliff above a purple ocean. The sunsets there were beautiful, painting the sky in colors that had no names in human language. Had passed away 40 years ago, still missed him every day, but life continued. Had puppies before he died. Those puppies had puppies, and now lying at its feet was great-great-granddaughter. She had the same golden fur, the same warm brown eyes, the same gentle soul. She was 6 years old and very well behaved. She stayed with always just as once did. On this particular evening, received a visitor. Her door chimed softly. She told it to open. A figure entered, tall and slender, with silver skin that changed colors with emotion. But not just any. Said smiling, "It has been too long." Ambassador bowed his head respectfully. He was not a child anymore. He had grown into a dignified diplomat, one of the most respected voices in the government. But when he looked at, his skin flickered with colors that showed deep emotion. "Doctor," he said, "thank you for seeing me. Please sit down, say hello to our guest." Lifted her head and wagged her tail, sat in a chair across from. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Two beings from different worlds, connected by a memory from 50 years ago. "I came to talk about," said finally. Nodded slowly, "I thought you might. I was very young when he saved me, too young to understand what happened. My parents told me the story many times. A golden beast lay on top of me in a freezing room. He kept me warm. He protected me." Paused. "I never got to thank him." "He did not need thanks," said softly. "That is not why dogs do what they do." "Then why?" asked. "I have thought about this question for 50 years. Why would an animal risk its life for a child of another species? There was no benefit to him. I was not his family. I was not his kind. Why did he do it?" Looked down at. The golden retriever gazed back at her with eyes full of love. The same eyes that had. The same eyes that dogs had shown to humans for 10,000 years. "Because we are their people," said. "That is the only reason. Dogs love their people. And once they love you, they will do anything to protect you. It does not matter if you are human or if a dog decides you belong to them, you are family." She reached down and stroked soft fur. "Saw you alone and scared. He saw a child who needed help, and that was enough. In his mind, you became his responsibility. You became someone worth protecting. He did not think about species or politics or differences. He just loved you." Was quiet for a long time. His skin shifted through many colors, showing feelings that his voice could not express. "Your species formed a bond with predators," he said finally. "You took creatures that the galaxy feared and turned them into something the galaxy could love. You did not do this with technology or science. You did it with patience and kindness and trust." He stood up and walked to the window. The purple ocean stretched out below, endless and beautiful. "My people ask me sometimes what makes humans special. You are not the strongest species. You do not live the longest, but you have something we do not, something none of us have." He turned back to, "You see the good in everything, even in predators, even in enemies. You believe that any creature can be reached with enough love, and somehow you are usually right. Smiled, her old face wrinkling with warmth. It is not just humans, she said. Dogs taught us how. They showed us what loyalty meant, what unconditional love looked like. They made us better. We like to think we tamed them, but really they tamed us. Stood up and walked over to. She sat at his feet and looked up at him with trusting eyes. Slowly, carefully, reached down and touched her head. Her fur was soft and warm. Her tail wagged gently. I understand now, said quietly. I think I finally understand. Nodded, good, then's legacy continues. Stayed for dinner that night. They talked about many things, politics and science and the future of the galaxy. But mostly they talked about dogs, about the strange miracle of a species that loved without conditions, protected without fear, and gave without expecting anything in return. When finally left, he paused at the door. Doctor, one more question. Is there anything humans cannot befriend? Any creature too dangerous or too different for you to love? Laughed. It was a warm sound, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Give us time, she said. We are working on it. Smiled, a very human expression he had learned over the years. Then he was gone, his ship rising into the darkening sky. Returned to her chair, jumped up beside her, resting her golden head in his lap. Outside, the stars were beginning to appear, thousands of tiny lights in the purple darkness. Somewhere out there, humans were traveling between worlds, and with them traveled dogs, golden retrievers and German shepherds and Belgian, beagles and terriers and countless other breeds. They were in space stations and colonies and ships. They were making friends with aliens who had once feared them. They were changing the galaxy, one wagging tail at a time. Closed her eyes and smiled. Good girl, she whispered. You are all such good dogs. His tail thumped softly against the chair. Outside, a ship passed overhead, its lights blinking against the stars. And somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. The sound echoed across the universe, a simple message in a language everyone was finally learning to understand. Love was possible, trust was possible, even monsters could become family. All it took was a little patience, a little kindness, and a whole lot of good boys. And the galaxy, slowly but surely, was learning to wag its tail.